reverehealth.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, we could see some scattered thunderstorms this afternoon, then drier air moves in tomorrow. Today's high 83, 78 tomorrow, upper 80s by Sunday, and right now 75 degrees and partly cloudy. I'm Dan Bonas, KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com, Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
We broke news coming out of Washington, D.C. earlier today. Utah Junior Senator Mitt Romney announced that he will not run for re-election in the United States Senate. He will finish his term, which ends in January of 2025. More of that coming up later on the show. But another member of Utah's delegation will wrap up much sooner. In fact, his work in Congress will be done in the next 48 hours. Congressman Chris Stewart joins us. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
We're very thrilled to have on the program for the last time with his formal title. Congressman Chris Stewart joins us, has just stepped off the floor from voting, is in between meetings there in our nation's capital. And Representative Stewart, as you come down the home stretch of your time in our nation's capital, thanks for carving out a little bit of time for us today.
You know, I'll carve out any time at all for you, boys. What an honor to be with you. Thank you.
So as you look at these final 48 hours of your time in Congress, of course, things aren't slowing down. You seem to be in the middle of a lot of crucial conversations back there. Just give us a quick sense of what it's feeling like as you come down those last votes, those last conversations with your colleagues.
I think there's two answers to your question. First is personally how I feel, and of course, there's a lot of mixed feelings there. I didn't anticipate leaving Congress, certainly didn't anticipate leaving so quickly in the middle of the term. And so there's some, there's some tender feelings as I say goodbye to my colleagues and goodbye to the work and the great honor to represent Utah, to represent the second district. And I mean, it truly is just the honor of a lifetime to have had this experience. And I've developed so much love and appreciation and respect for so many people. So it's kind of that as we're here for the last week. But I think another answer to that question, and perhaps a more important answer, is what's going on back here on a national scale. And I'm telling you, Boyd, it's just a mess. We had a very, very positive conference this morning with all the Republicans and trying to find a way. How are we going to fund our government? How are we going to move forward on the impeachment inquiry? Are we going to reauthorize 702 this very important tool that we use for national security, but which the Department of Justice and the FBI has been abusing for years now? I mean, I could go on with the list. So there's just an awful lot of uncertainty right now.
Yeah, there is a lot, and that is going to continue as we move into the fall, and we hope that leadership will continue to step into that breach and create path for those conversations to happen. I want to hit a couple of things, Congressman, as you close out your season of service and stewardship. I think you've approached it in that capacity as a steward, and I think that matters. One thing that you and I have talked about many times on this program that I think is really a hallmark of your service back there is with the 988 number. It's Suicide Prevention Month, and just want to call out that as it has to be one of those rewarding moments of your season of stewardship in the House of Representatives.
Yeah, when I came to Congress too, Boyd, I did not know that I would be involved with suicide prevention or with emotional and mental health. And it started with our veterans, and then from that we moved into emotional health and suicide prevention among young people in Utah. Because for a while there, we were one of the worst states in the country for suicide among youth. And then, of course, more broadly, and, people ask me often, well, did you do anything while you're back there? Is there anything you're proud of? And I mean, there are a number of things, but I think one of the things I'm most proud of is what you said, Boyd, the 988 number. And I'll give you just one very quick example. And this has happened actually to me a number of times now, where I was walking down the sidewalk, a woman grabs me and she says, my 13-year-old daughter is alive today because she called 988 and she got help. And the truth is that has happened hundreds of thousands of times now, that we've been able to reach out and people have been able to get the help they need. I think if I did nothing else in Congress, and who knows, maybe that's the only thing I did. I hope I did more than that, and I think I did. But even if that's the only thing I did, I will say, Ben, I'm very proud of that.
Nothing more important, each of those individuals, and it is being replicated over and over every day, and such an easy way for people in distress or in a bad space to just dial 988 and get the help that they need. I want to talk for a second about some of the unsung heroes that I think have become people that you admire in our nation's capital. Give us just a quick snapshot of the kinds of people that really do make a difference in Washington, D.C.
I'm going to answer it slightly differently, but I think it is a fair answer, and I think it gets to the point of your question. The blessing of traveling around Utah, and I would argue by the same extension around the country, and talking to ranchers in southern Utah, or talking to school teachers in West Valley or in some other parts of the district that are financially stressed, economically stressed, where people have a different experience than, someone growing up in Bountiful and Draper. I mean, I could, again, give you many, many examples, and boy, to me, it's just this reaffirmation of the goodness of America, the goodness of the people here. And a personal observation is I think we have lost our ways in many, many ways. And I think God has protected this nation because God cares about this nation. But he cannot protect an immoral people, and that worries me. But as I talk with people, it's encouraged me and affirmed for me most Americans are good people. Most of them love their country. Most of them want to support their country. And I think that same thing is true in Washington. There's a lot of good people here who have sacrificed to be here and are trying to serve their country. Not all of them, I get that, believe me. There are some complete goofballs here, but there's a lot of good people who are, and I just leave on that encouraging note.
Fantastic. And finally, Congressman, I know you're headed into a meeting now in the Speaker's office, and just give us one final thought, a takeaway from this extraordinary season as we wrap it all up.
I would come back to say what I just said, and that is the fundamental goodness of America, but that doesn't change this one fact as well. We have enormous challenges. We have challenges, I would argue, that we haven't seen in our country since the 1850s. And from a national security perspective, we haven't seen since the late 1930s. And we would be naive and ignorant not to recognize that. And I do recognize that. Our society is holding on, I think, from a very frayed rope. But we can't give up hope. For people who are angry at what's happening in Washington, D.C., and they have every right to be angry, they should be angry with the Constitution, those fundamental ideas that make America. Those are the things we're trying to defend, and that fight will go on. And everyone should be anxiously engaged in that good cause.
Fantastic. Congressman Chris Stewart, we have been grateful for your season of service and stewardship in our nation's capital, representing the state of Utah and the people of the district very well. And we know that this is not the beginning of the end, just the end of the beginning. We know you're up for another season that will be equally important for national security and defense. And we look forward to those conversations as well. Good luck in these last 48 hours there in our nation's capital. And we look forward to seeing you back here in the state real soon.
Thank you so much.
That's Congressman Chris Stewart. Literally walked off the floor of the House after casting a vote, in between a chance to have a meeting with the Speaker of the House in the Speaker's office. So he was literally in the halls of Congress as we had that conversation, something he's done many times over the course of his time representing the state of Utah. And we appreciate Congressman Stewart's willingness to always have a conversation. We appreciate his work in so many different areas, and again, highlight, I think, a crowning achievement in getting that 988 number that has helped so many facing crisis, so many that have been dealing with difficult days and considering alternatives to life. That 988 number is so important, among many other things that Congressman Stewart accomplished during his tenure. He still has a little less than 48 hours to go, some crucial votes to cast, some meetings to have, and we'll continue to follow all of those, but we thank him for his service.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. It's about to get real for the BYU Cougars.
Into the end zone, touchdown!
This Saturday, the Cougs take on Arkansas from the Powerhouse SEC Conference. Our special extended pregame coverage starts at noon with kickoff at 5:30 on Utah's legacy home of the Cougars. KSL News Radio.
Attorney Joe Cordell.
Business owners and professionals face special challenges in divorce court. In addition to everything else going on, they have to contend with allegations that they are earning more than they are, coupled with claims on their business or practice itself. Clients with assets depend on their divorce lawyer's skills in these matters, and that's why it's so important to hire someone that has those skills.
Schedule an appointment with one of Cordell & Cordell's Salt Lake City area attorneys. 910 West Legacy Center Way, Suite 120, Midvale, Utah, 84047.
Whether you own a local business or a global one, you know that these days, generating growth is a challenge. By teaming with Bank of America, you'll not just stay ahead of the curve, you'll move it. With access to experts, award-winning insights, and business solutions so powerful, you'll make every move matter, locally and globally. Visit bankofamerica.com/banking for business to learn more. What would you like the power to do? Copyright 2023 Bank of America, N.A.
What is the biggest threat to your retirement savings today? Believe it or not, it's taxes. That's right. You could be paying a lot more taxes in retirement than you realize. Learn more in a free report. 3 retirement tax traps that could wipe out your savings. It's from Boss Retirement Solutions, a 5-time winner of Utah's Best of State Award. This free report reveals how you could avoid 3 retirement tax traps that could needlessly cost you tens of thousands, and in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars. To get this free report, call 801-896-9622. Don't needlessly overpay your taxes in retirement. Get this free report now by calling 801-896-9622. That's 801-896-9622.
Advisory services offered through Boss Retirement Advisors, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. Insurance products and services offered through Boss Retirement Solutions.
They say you slow down as you get older, and it's true. But taking life a little slower here at Summit Vista has been incredibly rewarding. At my age, I know what I like, and it's all here. They call this a life plan community, and I'm liking the concept. I've always been a practical person, and now it's time to treat myself. At Summit Vista, I have a beautiful apartment. It's spacious and contemporary. It feels like me. I have all the independence I want, no more maintenance headaches, no more days spent cleaning. I eat delicious meals with my friends. The staff here feels like family. The socializing and amenities are endless. Frankly, anyone who says luxury living is overrated hasn't been to Summit Vista. I've rebooted my life, and I'm revisiting my younger self with the wisdom of an older woman. And I gotta tell you, feels pretty cool.
Experience retirement living at the top. Visit summitvista.com today.
Transform your outdated kitchen with half-price granite for $2,500. Granite, quartz, cabinets, and flooring. Visit halfpricegranite.com. Affordable luxury.
Attention smart homeowners. You don't have to fall for flashy promises and companies that don't even prove their work. At Your Service Pros uses third-party verification software called MeasureQuick to ensure your new HVAC system is installed correctly. This ultimate game changer in the HVAC industry lets you, the homeowner, have proof of how your system was installed. At Your Service Pros utilizes our Bluetooth tools to upload all of your system's information into MeasureQuick. We rely on data-driven insights to properly commission, optimize, and fine-tune your HVAC system for peak performance, improving your family's comfort, lowering your utility bills, and extending the life of your HVAC system. With rebates and tax credits available totaling more than $7,500 on a dual fuel heating and cooling system, it is now more important than ever that your HVAC system be installed correctly. So call us today at 801-YOUR-PRO. That's 801-YOUR-PRO. Have the peace of mind of saving up to 50% on your new system and knowing it's installed correctly by calling 801-YOUR-PRO.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, Senator Mitt Romney says he will not run for a second term. That opens up the field to potential rival candidates such as House Speaker Brad Wilson. Second, there's a new way to get in and out of Saratoga Springs. The Mountain View Corridor connected there today. And third, police in Virginia have solved a murder case after 30 years. Right now, 75 degrees, partly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Boyd Matheson divides rage from reason on Inside Sources.
It is always a pleasure to have on the program J.D. Tuccilli, of course, former managing editor at Reason.com. He's the current contributing editor. It has a fabulous piece today. We've heard a lot over the last few days, in particular, around the New Mexico anti-gun decree coming from the governor. And J.D.'s done a great analysis. This is a head-scratcher beyond head-scratchers for me. And J.D., welcome back to the show, and I'm really glad you're here to help us break this one down.
Oh, I appreciate you having me on, and we have plenty to discuss.
Well, let's start with exactly what it is that the governor decreed, and then we can start unraveling from there.
Well, there's a couple of levels to her emergency order, but the one that's catching everyone's attention is that she suspended, she claims to have suspended the right to carry either openly or concealed a firearm for self-defense in areas of the state that have a violent crime level above a certain rate. And at this time, that means Albuquerque and Bernalillo County. And it was issued in the form of a public health order. So it came out of first her office, and then the state's Secretary of Public Health issued the specifics in an order from there.
Okay, and so looking at that as let's start with the constitutional issue there. So it seems to be she's a little bit sideways with the U.S. Constitution, and she seems pretty sideways with the New Mexico state Constitution. How do you break that down?
I think we could say this is explicitly unconstitutional under both the Second Amendment of the U.S. federal Constitution and also under the specifics of the gun provisions of the New Mexico state Constitution. Just last year in the Bruen case, New York State Rifle and Pistol Association v. Bruen, the U.S. Supreme Court upheld carry rights for Americans in terms of having a firearm for self-defense, and that would cast immediate doubt on the constitutionality of a unilateral move. Now, even if it wasn't unilateral, even if the state legislature had done this, it almost certainly would be unconstitutional. For a governor to do it unilaterally is highly questionable at another level beyond that. And then independent of that, New Mexico's Constitution has its own Article 2, Section 6 provision for self-defense rights that specifically mentions the use of firearms and weapons in general for self-defense, and was used in 1971 to knock down restrictions on carrying firearms in city of Las Vegas v. Moberg. So on two separate counts, two different constitutions, this is highly questionable at best. It's blatantly unconstitutional. This can't stand.
Yeah, and you pointed out in your piece at Reason.com that the governor was asked, you took an oath to the Constitution. This looks pretty unconstitutional. And the governor responded in a most interesting way to me, saying that if there is an emergency and I've declared an emergency for a temporary amount of time, I can invoke additional powers. I think that is more problematic on even more levels than just the constitutional argument.
Yeah, I think my first response to that is citation needed. I mean, at what level, the best of my knowledge, in the federal Constitution, the only right that can be suspended is habeas corpus. And that was suspended once during the Civil War, and even then it was suspended wrongly by the president unilaterally, and the Supreme Court ruled afterwards that was inappropriate. There is no provision in the Constitution, either at federal or, so far as I know, at the New Mexico level, for an emergency suspension of civil liberties. It's just not there. So she can assert that all day long. That doesn't mean it's true. And at the same time, she seems to be invoking the idea that constitutionally protected rights are limited in ways that are not seen anyplace, not written down, but that she can just kind of create out of whole cloth and thin air monarchical powers, the power to rule by decree without reference to the state legislature, just by issuing a public health order. There's no basis for that. She made that up out of whole cloth, and she seems to understand that it's unconstitutional, but to not care.
And so she's invoking something that a lot of Americans grew very weary of during the course of the pandemic, and that is the use of the magic word emergency or emergency powers, and that if you invoke an emergency, then everything else is off, and people in government have wide range, broad berth in terms of what they can and can't do. So give us some perspective of that in terms of this newfound thing for many politicians, and that is, whenever in doubt, just call it a big emergency.
Yeah, I mean, this came out with COVID-19, appearing in 2020. A lot of people got very frightened, which is always a bad circumstance when it comes to maintaining common sense, supporting basic liberties. But a lot of governors, a lot of states then invoked these kind of dormant emergency powers clauses that a lot of state constitutions do contain, and some others don't. Some governors just invoked it out of thin air. But they decided that they were going to basically suspend their state legislatures and rule by decree. Some of them got away with it. The governor of California has a particularly onerous emergency powers clause, and the courts basically decided that, he could just kind of make up laws on the fly as if he was king. A lot of other states that did not go over. The governors of Pennsylvania and Michigan were both slapped down pretty hard by judges that said, "Oh no, you can't do this. There's no basis in law for ruling as if you're a monarch. You cannot bypass the legislature." And some of the things that these governors are doing can't be done at all by anybody because there is a constitution that protects fundamental basic rights. Neil Gorsuch, the Supreme Court justice, actually addressed this earlier this year, and he was very concerned when the Supreme Court was looking at restrictions on immigration that were invoked under emergency powers. And he said that since March 2020, we have, and I'm quoting him here, we have experienced the greatest intrusions on civil liberties in the peacetime history of this country. Executive officials across the country issued emergency decrees on a breathtaking scale. And he specifically pointed out this is done out of fear and that there was a clamor for action because people wanted to believe that somebody was doing something. And it opened the door for these governors and also the presidency to act in ways that we would normally not permit at all because the Constitution doesn't allow for this. And slowly we seem to be seeing the courts push it back and saying, no, they overdid it. This is too much. But as the Washington Post pointed out, there has been a growing habit among governors to see how far they can push this still. The governor of North Carolina invoked emergency powers when the lawmakers in his state legislature disagreed with him on an education policy. And, of course, the governor of New Mexico now is trying this with gun policy. Yeah. So it's still a situation that's in flux, really dangerous.
Yeah, it is dangerous. And you noted in your piece also that there have been 12 different bills in different states to limit the ability of a governor to exercise emergency power or for there to be increased oversight from the legislative branch to balance that out as well. And I want to conclude, JD, by getting to this dangerous component to this, because it seems to me that if everything is an emergency, if we go to those base emotions of fear and anger and frustration, that seems to be a path that doesn't have a great history. It sort of leads to authoritarianism or worse, and yet we have many governors and many in government who are saying, hey, any emergency is a good one, and if you can foment enough fear, anger, and frustration, you can probably do some pretty sweeping things from a leadership post.
And we can see that not just in the U.S., but internationally. I mean, several organizations, Freedom House being one, have pointed out that civil liberties have plummeted around the world since the beginning of the pandemic, usually because emergency powers were invoked. We have better protections in the U.S., so what we're seeing is actually less bad than some people in other countries have experienced, but it's still not good when politicians who always chafe at limitations on their power decide that using a magic spell that includes the word emergency is somehow going to allow them to do all the things they've ever wanted to do without restrictions on their authority. That's something that has to be constrained. It's something that has to be stopped before it gets worse, because it is a real danger to our liberties. If they get away with it, it establishes a precedent that will be invoked in the future.
Yeah, that precedent is what has me the most worried. And J.D. Cicilli, again, with Reason.com, great piece there. And you may be thinking today, you know what, New Mexico gun law doesn't really impact me today, but it can and it will. If everything's an emergency and if executives at state, local, national level, that's going to impact all of us in the long haul. JD, as always, thanks so much for joining us today. Fantastic perspective.
Thank you for having me on.
All right, more Inside Sources coming up next.
It's 1:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bonas. KSL's top story this hour, Utah Senator Mitt Romney making it official. He will not run for re-election. KSL News Radio's Lindsay Aerts has details.
It's the news we've all been wanting to know. Romney making the announcement online.
While I'm not running for re-election, I'm not retiring from the fight. I'll be your United States Senator until January of 2025. I will keep working on these and other issues, and I'll advance our state's numerous priorities.
Romney touting the ways he says he's been productive on infrastructure with China, religious protections, and gun safety. He also touted funding for Hill, wildfires, and water infrastructure here locally.
At the end of another term, I'd be in my mid-80s. Frankly, it's time for a new generation of leaders.
And now the question begins about who will replace him. Lindsay Aerts, KSL News Radio.
Our top national story this hour from ABC News. President Biden trying to help the United Auto Workers and the big three automakers head off a strike. The president's top economic advisor, Jared Bernstein, confirms President Biden has reached out to both sides and to help facilitate those negotiations as best he can.
He's met with President Fain one-on-one in the Oval before the UAW briefed senior staff on their negotiating position. He called President Fain on Labor Day and called all big three executives before he left for Asia to encourage them to provide more forward-leaning offers and stay at the table.
The clock runs out on the strike deadline in just a few days. Your money at this moment. The Dow Jones average took a steep drop around noon. Down to 88, but down 88 points on the day so far. The NASDAQ, though, is still up 41 points right now. And our KSL weather looks like a possibility of a shower today, but that'll be over tomorrow. That's next. KSL News Time, 1:32.
What do you need to hear in the morning to feel ready for the day?
Important news that happened overnight, the traffic you'll hit on the roads.
You'll be ready for your day with us.
Join Utah's Morning News 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Embrace the majesty of the great outdoors and celebrate Bryce Canyon National Park's 100th birthday at Ruby's Inn. Skip the long lines and expensive hotel rooms and escape to the American West. Ride, hike, bike, and play among the towering hoodoos right in Ruby's backyard. Embrace your inner cowboy and take a guided horseback tour across the rim of Bryce Canyon. And no trip to Ruby's Inn is complete without dinner and a show at Ebenezer's Barn and Grill. After a long day of adventure, spend your nights in a cozy hotel room or camp out in a rustic campground. With affordable and varied lodging options, any family will feel right at home at Ruby's Inn. For some extra savings, be sure to take advantage of the hot deals running throughout the year. This year, treat your family to the adventure of a lifetime. Book your trip today at ruby'sinn.com. That's ruby'sinn.com.
Stop for a moment and think about this. Do you know how much money in your 401k or IRA is actually yours? Or will the government take a bigger chunk than you thought? Remember, you still might owe taxes on that money. But do you have a plan to help make sure you don't pay more than you should? At Capital Wealth Advisors, we believe you deserve to keep more of what you've earned, which is why we're here to help you navigate the confusing world of retirement taxes. It's your money. You deserve to know what's at stake. Right now, taxes are historically low, but they won't be this low forever. So call the Capital Wealth Advisors team today so you don't miss out on this opportunity. 801-210-5500. That's 801-210-5500. You work hard for your money, and we'll work just as hard to help you keep it. Capital Wealth Advisors, 801-210-5500. Advisory services offered through Capital Wealth Advisors, LLC, a state of Utah registered investment advisor. Firm may not give tax advice.
Hey guys, do you know what makes Revive Men's Health Salt Lake City different? You. Every Revive treatment and medication is personalized just for you. Revive has the experts that guys go to when their current treatment isn't working. They have a complicated medical condition, or they're just not happy with their daily performance. Since 2011, they've helped thousands of local men suffering with the symptoms of low T and ED. Their goal is simple, to get to the bottom of your issues and fix them. Your best performance requires more than generic ED medications or a low-dose testosterone booster at a low-ball price like you find online. Revive medications are custom compounded, affordable, and guaranteed to resolve your issues. Stop dealing with the symptoms of low T or ED. Book your T-check and exam today. Call 801-263-7777. That's 801-263-7777. Or visit us at ReviveMen'sHealth.com.
Join the Utah Symphony for the greatest classical hits from the 1700s to today. Tickets start at $21. Get yours today at utahsymphony.org.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's new Dividend Plus checking account. Here's Ricky Meese.
We have a crash in Tooele County. This is at Main Street, SR 36, and about 10th North. Also, a report of a vehicle fire in the Fort Union area, 6900 South Fort Union Boulevard. That's about 1100 East. How do you know if you're getting the best deal on employee benefits? Well, you don't, unless you get free quotes from every insurance company every year. Visit shopmyplan.com to get free quotes. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
And right now we're looking at 77 degrees and mostly cloudy skies. Our forecast calls for things to clear out just a bit by tomorrow, and by later in the week, we're just looking at sunny skies. And again, right now, 77 degrees. I'm Dan Bomas, KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com, Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Inside Sources. Inside Sources. America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
As always, it's a pleasure to have joining us on the program Niall Stanage. He's the White House columnist for The Hill and a political contributor for News Nation, and always pleased to have him on. Niall, you had a great piece. Obviously, a lot swirling around Vice President Harris, obviously with President Biden's age becoming an increasing, at least chatter point or talking point, if not a real issue, and that puts the Vice President in an even more elevated role. You came up with 5 questions around Vice President Harris that are likely to be on the docket and front and center as we move into the fall.
Yeah, that's right. I don't know if you want me to run through them now, but I mean, basically, one of the issues was that Vice President Harris has herself a rather low approval rating, similar to President Biden himself. That obviously is a potential drag on his re-election hopes. It's not as if Harris is doing anything to up his chances of re-election necessarily. We can talk in a second about whether she may have some appeal to particular demographics. But certainly the fact that both President Biden and Vice President Harris are mired around 40% approval approximately in polls, with pluralities disapproving of their job performance, is a pretty grim sign from the administration's perspective.
Yeah, often when a president is struggling, often the vice president can go out either as the attack dog on one hand or as kind of the more populist or positive portion of the ticket. And it doesn't seem like either of those are really playing out when it comes to Biden-Harris 2.0.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there is a particular problem, it would appear, with independent voters who have a quite overwhelmingly negative view of the vice president. That's the sort of thing that some running mates could potentially help with. I mean, one thinks back to, say, 2008 when then Senator Joe Biden, as he was, ran as President Obama's running mate and was seen as a sort of reassuring influence to some more centrist voters. Things like that can occur. That does not seem to be a role that Vice President Harris can play in a very obvious or smooth way.
Yeah, one of the other things you pointed out in your piece, Niall, was this challenge she has to do this delicate dance of trying to show that the president is vigorous and up for the job, and at the same time showing that she's up for the job without overshadowing or undermining the president. That's no small task.
No, it's a very difficult needle to thread, actually, and she has tried to do so in a couple of recent video or TV interviews, one with the Associated Press, one with CBS News. In both of those instances, she asserted her own readiness to be president, and that's fine. I mean, she noted that every vice president has to be ready to take the top job if necessary. That's part of taking the oath, part of considering yourself for that position in the first place. The problem, I think, arises because, as we're all well aware, President Biden is the oldest president in history. There are very major questions around his vitality. A recent poll had 77% of the electorate believing that he was too old to effectively serve a second term. So Vice President Harris needs to be very careful on what she says on that topic. She has done an okay job of that so far, but something that by its nature invites scrutiny and can lead to headlines of the wrong kind.
Yeah, for sure. I want to get into something that you alluded to off the top there, and that is, does the vice president have a role? It seems like they've been targeting her to college campuses. She's been focused on some of the women's issues and some of the cultural battles. Can she fire up some of those key demographics and those key areas of something you alluded to in your piece?
Yeah, I mean, that would certainly be the hope from the Biden re-election team, that she can do that. She is about to start a college tour that will take her to about a dozen campuses. Those campuses are overwhelmingly of historically black colleges or universities. That is obviously an attempt to spark enthusiasm from younger black voters in particular. Now, it's possible she will succeed in that. Some of the polling that I quote in the piece was noting that she is more popular with the under 30s than with any other age group. So she could have a role to play there. Of course, the difficulty is that there are questions, I think, around enthusiasm for President Biden himself with those groups. Can a vice president counteract that entirely, or is it more, a more marginal difference that we're talking about?
Fascinating. You also pointed out in your piece something I thought was really astute, and that is she's obviously very divisive, particularly amongst Republicans. Republicans love to take their shots at the vice president. You raise an important question of, is that a good strategy or is that a potential backfire strategy?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is, again, a really delicate issue because clearly, anyone in public life is a legitimate target for criticism, or it's legitimate that they could be criticized. The problem, I think, with Vice President Harris is that it's quite easy for those attacks to be tarred by her supporters as having, frankly, racist or sexist overtones. And they just need to be a little bit careful about that. The other thing, in terms of those independent voters or voters in the middle ground, is whether there are attacks that seem excessively petty or that would turn those independent voters off. And I mean, I quoted this in the piece. There was an event at the Vice President's residence this past weekend to celebrate 50 years of hip-hop, where she was dancing to some of the tracks being played, and, she got mocked for the dancing. Now, I mean, whether politicians should dance at all is
that's a debate for another day, yeah.
Debate for another day, but some of those criticisms, I think, did seem a little bit mean-spirited, honestly.
Yeah, no question about that. One politician shouldn't dance in general, but when they do, you know what? There are very few good dancers in the world, so I think we can pass on that one for sure.
Exactly. Yes.
So as we've moved past Labor Day now, and as the campaign really heats up, what is it that you're watching for, particularly as it relates to the vice president's role, that might indicate, one, where she is? Is she getting her sea legs and getting some confidence there? Is the balance between the president and the vice president dynamic changing at all? What else are you watching for and looking for in the fall?
One of the things that I'm watching is a very simple thing, really, which is how prominent will the vice president be in the re-election effort? Because as you well know, Boyd, one of the obvious but important elements of politics is how much is someone put forward. If they're put forward a lot, they are clearly being seen as a political asset. But if we see the vice president only playing quite marginal roles or very kind of niche roles, I think that is very different. It's a bit like when you have, midterm elections and some people are eager for a sitting president to campaign with them, and others want that sitting president to stay as far away as possible. Those decisions themselves, I think, are indicative of deeper political realities.
Yeah, that is fabulous insight, and that is going to be the interesting nuance to watch. We won't see that in a lot of headlines, and that's why we always tap into Niall Stanage because he gets the nuance of all of this. And Niall, thanks so much for joining us today. Of course, Niall's the White House columnist for The Hill and a political contributor for our friends over at News Nation. Niall, thanks for carving out some time for us today.
My pleasure, Boyd. Take care.
This autumn, fall for the KSL hosts who share this community with you and report on Utah's most important stories. Depend on Tim and Amanda, mornings from 5 to 9. Listen to Dave and Dejanovic at 9, Boyd Matheson at 1, and Jeff Kaplan on the ride home from 3 to 7. We have you covered at KSL News Radio.
If you've had painful kidney stones, you know you don't want more. Moonstone Stone Stopper is a simple solution that works. Created and recommended by top kidney stone doctors, Stone Stopper is an alkali citrate formula scientifically proven to prevent crystallization. Stone Stopper's patented formula is gentle on the stomach and is available in easy-to-swallow capsules, gummies, and powder drinks that make hydration delicious. Stone Stopper is available at participating Walmart and Walgreens stores. Look for the red stop sign on the bottom shelf of the vitamin aisle. For more information or to find a store near you, go to stonestopper.com.
Troy, I'm depressed. Bitches RV and American Fork is killing it.
What's depressing about that?
Stewart's RV managers and staff are still here, so we've got the same incredible customer service.
That's good.
And we brought in new RV brands like Ember RV and GoPlay Travel Trailers.
Also good.
And now you can shop hundreds more RVs at bitches.com.
Still waiting for the sad part.
I'm used to being a mentor, but I'm turning into a manatee.
You do have the same shape. Bish's RV is now open in American Fork. Come see us at the previous Stewart's RV or at our North Salt Lake location. Bish's RV, where memories begin.
Made to shine. Real stories from Shane Company customers.
I grew up in a small town near my grandma. I looked up to her in so many ways. Her creativity, her style. Sadly, she passed away before my wedding. At my rehearsal dinner, my mom surprised me with my grandmother's favorite amethyst ring from Shane Company. I wore it on the big day, and I felt like she was there with me.
Shine bright with hand-selected gemstones in every color of the rainbow. Shane Company, fine jewelry since 1929.
I have diabetes. I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
I have asthma. I'm at risk too.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine, a vaccine that can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just one dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle, and joint pain. For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
Meet Mary. Mary has a rewards checking account with UFirst Credit Union. By using her UFirst Rewards debit card, Mary collects points every month and can use them for things like gifts and cash back. With UFirst, Mary is happy because her everyday purchases always add up to extraordinary rewards. You can earn rewards too. Learn more about UFirst Rewards checking at ufirstcu.com. That's the letter U, FIRSTCU.com.
Join KSL News Radio's Jeff Kaplan on Thursday from 4 till 8 at the Mill Creek Business Market at Mill Creek Common. Join over 40 local businesses at the Mill Creek Business Market and enjoy fresh cut flowers, haircuts, Thai food, skincare products, henna tattoos, jewelry, dog treats and toys, boba, and more. There'll be skating, food trucks, and free twisted sugar drinks and cookies for the first 100 attendees. Courtesy of U.S. Bank. It's KSL in your community in Mill Creek with KSL News Radio.
I lost 34 pounds on the SOTA weight loss program. You might have heard us talking about this before. I had done every program there is, almost. And some of them I had lost weight on, but then I gained it right back, which was so frustrating. Because if you're going to go through this and lose 34 pounds or more in some cases, you don't want to ever have to do this again.
Yeah.
SOTA weight loss teaches you how to be smart. I thought I was eating healthy. I just didn't know. I didn't know that certain kinds of things, turn to carbs turn to and body fat just like that. They taught me so much, and I still talk to my nutritionist.
That's the key right there, is that you're never alone. And sometimes when you're the only one in your own household dieting, you feel like you are really all out there on an island by yourself. You never feel like that with Soda, because they have these great nutritionists who become friends, and they know where you have your struggles, and they can help you get right back on task when you do gain a couple of pounds along the way. Find out more. Go to SodaWeightLoss.com. See how my daughter lost 42 pounds. It's Soda Weight Loss. State of the art.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bonas. First, Utah Senator Mitt Romney says his age is one of the reasons he's decided not to run for a second term. Second, the Gardner Institute says 9 out of 10 Utahns can't afford the median-priced home in the state. And third, President Biden is working to avoid a strike by the United Workers against the big 3 car makers. Right now, 77 degrees, mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Get deeper insights on the news from Inside Sources.
We are thrilled to have back on the program Representative John Curtis, 3rd Congressional District. And Representative Curtis, you are in the middle of re-entry. I always say re-entry into Washington, D.C. is a little bit like airbag deployment. It is a big jolt.
That is a perfect description. And when you're away from here for a few weeks and come back, they should have an orientation course for us.
Yeah, it should be a really slow re-entry process, because you get spoiled a little bit. You get to travel around the district. You get to see all the amazing things that are happening in the state of Utah. But just give us a quick snapshot of some of the things you did during that August in-state work period.
Well, it was a delightful few weeks. One of my highlights was touring the district. Particularly, we took a trip for a number of days down to the south part of the district and met with people down there. We did a number of, we call them community outreach meetings. They're kind of like a town hall version of a town hall. We did those around the district and met with a lot of people, a lot of good discussions, and even did a little international travel.
Oh, fantastic. Before we get to the international piece, I want to take a look at that. But tell me just a little bit of what you heard around the district. What did you learn this? Because you always learn something on those kinds of conversations. Anything surprise you about what's on the minds of the people in the district?
Well, I'll tell you, Boyd, it won't surprise you. It's inflation, it's inflation, it's inflation, the cost of fuel and the uncertainty. It's top of mind for everybody. And then, of course, down south with the National Monument designation by President Biden, even though it's not in my district, that's such a sensitive topic down there that was an issue to them as well.
Such an important part of that process. And, of course, you had your annual conference talking about climate and how we have the right kind of conversation. Brought in some great speakers, some great thought leaders. Give us a sense of that conversation.
Well, it far exceeded all of our expectations. Imagine a room full of 350 people coming to talk about a conservative approach to how we have a better energy policy, one that is good for our economy, but also reduces emissions from a conservative perspective. The entire meeting, I just felt really good about. We had a number of people who came and left seeing things through a slightly different paradigm on both the right and the left, quite frankly. And, I think if I had to just emphasize one thing, the message was that the same policy that's good for our environment is the same policy that's good for national security, energy independence, our economy, low affordable prices. And people have been told that it's just the opposite of that. Those things aren't congruent. But that was our message that day.
And unpack that a little bit for us, because we do get served up so regularly the fake fight followed by the false choice, and nowhere is that more evident than when it comes to climate, environment, and stewardship of the land.
Well, and nowhere is it more evident than the road that Europe took. And so if you follow what Europe did, they made some really bad decisions in the name of environmentalism, and today they buy dirty fossil fuels from an adversary. And are putting out more emissions than before. And in many ways, U.S. was on the same track. If you eliminate fracking and you eliminate nuclear, which is what Europe did, you'll find yourself dependent on our adversaries for fuel. And the reality of it is both of those things can be very good for the environment and can reduce emissions dramatically. And U.S. leads in the clean production of those things. And if we did nothing more than replace Russian natural gas with U.S. natural gas around the world, we'd reduce more emissions than everything combined that we've done to reduce emissions and fuel our economy and make other people dependent on us for fuel.
That is radical stuff you're proposing there, Congressman.
I know. I told you, people left with their minds warped just a little bit, because if you're on the left, you've always been told fossil fuels are the problem. And what they heard when they came to the summit was fossil fuels are actually part of the solution. And of course, that's very important for Utah. And folks on the right have all heard, well, you've got to give up national security, energy independence, and all these things to be clean. And of course, nobody should be surprised that they push back when they hear that.
Yeah, we so appreciate you leading the conversation in a different way. We have been talking a lot on the program this week about diplomacy, and it's not about agreeing and smiling and getting along or kumbaya moments. It's having a more honest conversation, creating space for a more honest conversation, because that always leads to better policy.
Well, you're the master of it, Boyd. I just follow your example.
Well, I want to dig into one of those examples. You had an opportunity, as you mentioned, to do some international travel. Went down to Kenya. Of course, the ambassador down there, Meg Whitman, is an extraordinary individual, great thinker. Give us some shed a little light on that experience.
Well, it's interesting, and as we talk about the climate and decisions we're making, so many lessons down there. And Meg Whitman, you mentioned her. She was talking to us in a hotel and bragging that Kenya was 95% renewable. And 15 minutes later, the lights went out in the hotel and the diesel generators kicked on because that renewable wasn't very dependable. And it's a great lesson for us here in the United States as we move forward in over-dependence on renewables. It's not that we don't like renewables. They play a very important role, but we have to be careful with them. But I also saw things like a hydroelectric dam that was planned and financed, and the last minute it was killed by 2 U.S. senators who have hydroelectric in their own state because it's not clean. And here we have people who are in a severe state of malnutrition, and they don't have energy or water storage. And we took that away from them in the name of environmentalism. And yet hydroelectric power is 100% zero emissions. And so it does highlight, if not careful, you're going to make some bad decisions here in the name of environmentalism that don't really get you to the end zone.
Yeah, so important looking at the results. What are we actually getting to in the end? And so often that becomes short-sighted in the political process as people have those kind of battles, often over funding or just political positioning or campaign potential cash in terms of fundraising.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And I saw, that hundreds and thousands of people spent their entire day gathering wood so that they would have fire to cook at the end of the day. And what a terrible waste of human productivity when they have resources abundantly around them. Interestingly, Kenya, of course, is in mass drought. And I did a Google search, and they get 5 inches more per average of water than we do in Utah on our wettest year. Yet they have no way to store it, and that's why they're in malnutrition. And so, boy, I just you hear and see things like that and say, well, how can we be making these types of mistakes with such high consequences? And we just clearly we can be doing better.
Yeah, it's so important to get to the right conversation, and again, good policy, good solutions that then you can measure and hold people accountable for. I know we're back into radical territory, but I think we should stick with that. Well, as we round it out, Congressman, let's just do a quick hit on reentry. Of course, a lot going on, and the clock is ticking down. We remind everyone that September 30th does come every year, actually, as it turns out. And yet we find ourselves in this situation where it seems to have snuck up on a few of your colleagues there in Congress.
Well, it's I got to tell you, it's almost embarrassing the way that we're budgeting back here. And we have 13, as you know, appropriation bills that we're supposed to pass and get over to the House. And some years we've done better than others, and this year we've done a terrible job of getting those across. And so we're caught unawares, not ready for this. And a number of my colleagues are ready to kind of hold us hostage and move into a shutdown mode. And I'm just telling you, I've been here for too many shutdowns. Nothing good happens in a shutdown. I don't care how conservative or liberal you are. It's a bad thing for this country. It's bad for our economy, bad for the debt. And yeah, that seems to be where we're headed.
Yeah, as we look at it moving forward, anything that you're kind of keeping a close pulse on, or any of the initiatives that you've been focused on legislatively that hopefully will see some light outside of the shutdown showdown fight and the ultimate continuing resolution?
Yes, absolutely. We've got some important bills moving through the Natural Resource Committee. This BLM rule that would trump our grazing and some of the other activities in much of the state. We're moving that forward. Over on the energy and commerce side, permitting reform is just the hot topic of the day, and we're hoping to get something moving forward on that as well. And it's a pretty full agenda, and I think that's one of the things that I'm proud of it. My constituents can count on is that I'm not going to get overly distracted. I'm going to pay attention to these other issues, but I'm not going to get overly distracted and make sure we're moving the work of Utah forward.
Focus always precedes success, and we appreciate you keeping the focus in the right place for us back there in Washington, D.C. Representative John Curtis, as always, appreciate you making time for us on busy re-entry week in Washington, D.C. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Boyd.
KSL FM Midvale, KSL Salt Lake City. Listen at home on any smart speaker and in your car at 102.7 FM. This is KSL News Radio, Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 2 o'clock at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bonas. KSL's top story this hour. Utah's senior senator Mike Lee is praising Senator Mitt Romney, after he announced his decision not to run for a second term. In a statement, Senator Lee thanked Senator Romney for his many years of public service, wished him the very best of success. Buying a home in Utah could get even more difficult in the short-term future. Dan Eskich with the Kim C. Gardner Policy Institute says not only do they expect home prices to start rising again in 2024, home and rental construction has slowed down because of how expensive it's become for builders.
Builders basically cannot finance these projects unless they dramatically increase prices of rent, so they're not building.
Eskich says 9 out of 10 Utahns already can't afford the median home in the state. As of August, it sits at $490,000. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. The U.S. ready to slap more sanctions on Russia and North Korea if they conclude any new arms deals. That warning today from State Department spokesperson Matthew Miller.
When you see what looks to be increased cooperation and probably military transfers, as we've said for some time, we have reason to believe they were going to discuss military transfers. That is quite troubling and would potentially be in violation of multiple UN Security Council resolutions.
North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has gone to Moscow to meet with President Putin. Our top, or your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down on the day now, 70 points so far, but the NASDAQ maintaining a positive run, 39 points up today. And our KSL weather, looks like we're going to see weather drying out and then maybe warming up a bit. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:02.
We have enough people running around Broadcast House at 4 in the morning to field a football team.
Producers, reporters, the traffic team, and us.
This is Tim and Amanda.
Join us each morning from 5 to 9 on KSL News Radio.
Introducing Yes Heating, Air Conditioning, Plumbing, and Electric. We're bringing all of Utah's favorite HVAC, plumbing, and electrical brands under one roof. Whether it's a small clog or a larger mainline sewer drain issue, the experienced technicians at Yes are ready to solve all of your drain problems. Take advantage of our 83 or It's Free mainline drain clearing special. Feel secure knowing the trusted professionals at Yes guarantee that if we can't clear it, you don't pay for it. Visit theyesmancan.com for details, terms, and conditions.
You know, there are whodunits, and then there's Catch Me If You Can that is showing right now at Hale Center Theater. The other night, Dee and I had the chance to be there, and it is a remarkable production. You are left wondering what in the world is going on, who indeed did do it. Don't miss Catch Me If You Can. It's showing right now at Hale Center Theater. And don't forget, in a couple of weeks, mid-September, it'll be Around the World in 80 Days. It's time to get your tickets for that production. And then also Elf is coming up in November. And believe it or not, it's not too early to get your tickets for A Christmas Carol at Hale Center Theater. Every year I get a call from the theater and they say, yeah, I know it's September, I know it's October, but we're getting sold out. Don't miss the opportunity to see this amazing production that you're going to love at Hale Center Theater. Get your tickets for everything right now at hct.org.
If you've had painful kidney stones, you know you don't want more. Moonstone Stone Stopper is a simple solution that works. Created and recommended by top kidney stone doctors, Stone Stopper is an alkali citrate formula scientifically proven to prevent crystallization. Stone Stopper's patented formula is gentle on the stomach and is available in easy-to-swallow capsules, gummies, and powder drinks that make hydration delicious. Stone Stopper is available at participating Walmart and Walgreens stores. Look for the red stop sign on the bottom shelf of the vitamin aisle. For more information or to find a store near you, go to stonestopper.com.
Traffic and weather together, brought to you by Granite Credit Union's new Dividend Plus checking account. Here's Ricky Meese.
We are looking at a quiet drive in progress. Valley Freeway traffic sailing along, and that includes north and southbound I-15 in Davis, Salt Lake, and Utah counties. No problems on your main secondaries. The Utah RV Super Show at Mountain America Expo Center in Sandy, September 14th through 17th. Get information and discount passes at UtahRVSupershow.com. Ricky Meese in the KSL Traffic Center.
KSL weather, we could see some scattered thunderstorms this afternoon. Dry air moving in tomorrow, and today's high 83, 78 tomorrow, upper 80s by Sunday. And right now we're at 79 degrees under mostly cloudy skies. I'm Dan Bomas, KSL News Radio, 102.7 FM, 1160 AM, and KSLNewsRadio.com, Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
Social Security is with you through life's journey from birth to retirement. As your life changes year to year, so do your needs. For over 80 years, Social Security has helped to meet your needs and is committed to improving access to the services that make a difference in your life. Today, you can verify your earnings, estimate your future benefits, apply for retirement, manage your benefits, and even change your address, all from the comfort of your home. Social Security's online services help put you in control with secure access to your information anytime, anywhere, allowing you to spend more time with family, friends, or simply just enjoying the day. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow. See what you can do online at socialsecurity.gov.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Mom and Dad used to argue about everything, especially about Dad's drinking. It drove me crazy. It got so bad, I couldn't do my homework. I couldn't concentrate. I absolutely refused to let any of my friends come to our house for any reason. I would have been humiliated if anyone found out how much my dad drank and how loud my mom screamed at him. My family went from totally crazy to quiet, calm, and even peaceful. The only thing that happened is my mom started going to Al-Anon family groups. Her relationship with my dad really changed. I asked Mom if she would take me to her Al-Anon meetings or to Alateen. I wanted to see if I could have a better relationship with my dad. I'm sure glad I did. If someone's drinking troubling you, you might be surprised at what you can learn in an Al-Anon or Alateen family group from people just like you. Call 1-888-4-ALANON or go to alanon.org.
At Social Security, we are always thinking of ways to save you time and make things easier. That's why we created My Social Security. Opening a My Social Security account gives you secure access to your personal record and interactive tools tailored for you. You can see if you are eligible to receive benefits, view spousal benefit estimates, and compare retirement benefit estimates at different ages or dates when you want to start receiving benefits. Already receiving benefits? Use your account to change your address, set up or change direct deposit, get a proof of income letter, and more. In most states, you can also request a replacement Social Security card. Save time. Go online. Open a My Social Security account at ssa.gov/myaccount. Social Security, securing today and tomorrow.
Produced at U.S. taxpayer expense.
Inside Sources.
Inside Sources.
America's voice of reason. Boyd Matheson on Utah's home for elevated conversation. Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Well, during the last fiscal year, the federal government collected nearly $5 trillion in taxes. That money is put towards a variety of programs and policies, some of which have been duplicated, forgotten about, or even are no longer needed. Now there's a bipartisan group in Congress, way beyond the headlines, way far away from cameras and lights, is doing the hard work and heavy lifting of trying to find out what's working, what isn't, and how we can do it better. Let's begin.
Think you know the news of the day? Think again with Boyd Matheson on KSL News Radio.
Well, this is my kind of think again moment. If you think you know what the news is, there's lots of bad news and chatter and clamor coming out of our nation's capital today. But this is one of those important stories beyond the headline. We need to think again about how governing is happening and how it isn't. And I am thrilled to have joining us on the program today two representatives who are doing just that. Of course, Utah's Representative Blake Moore, 1st Congressional District, and Greg Lansom, a Democrat from Ohio, represents Ohio's 1st Congressional District in the House. And gentlemen, welcome to the program, and I'm excited about this new group that you're bringing together.
Well, thanks for having us.
Thank you, Boyd. Yeah, Boyd and Greg, it's good to be with you.
Wonderful.
Even over the phone.
Wonderful. Representative Moore, let's start with you and give us just kind of the headline in terms of exactly what it is that you all launched today.
Like the crux of it, we do a lot of programs back, a lot of legislation that leverages and uses a lot of taxpayer money. We need to make sure that the work that we're doing, the programs, things that we're legislating are effective, and we have to monitor and research that better. And we don't do that. So much work goes into building the legislation, and once it's implemented, we don't do enough good work to analyze and evaluate whether it's effective. So that's what this really is focused on. And there's so many good tools out there that probably that aren't being leveraged by the public sector that exist in the private sector that makes their businesses more efficient. We need to incorporate more of that to know whether we are accomplishing what it's set out to do.
Fantastic. And Representative Landsman, great to have you on the show. Welcome to Inside Sources. We hope this is the first of many as this work begins. You're one of those, I like to call it the balls and strikes brigade in Washington. You're just calling balls and strikes on what is and isn't working. Give us your perspective coming into this, again, bipartisan work to actually get government working a little bit better.
Yeah, it's interesting because I'm a freshman, so this is I've been there for 9 months. I'm a newbie, but I have found that despite the national headlines and the folks who make most of the noise on both the left and the right, the vast majority of members really do want to work together. There are more bipartisan pieces of legislation than people realize. I mean, we really sort of flooded the zone with bipartisan pieces of legislation. We just got to get them onto the floor, and so I say that because I think there is a real desire by most of our colleagues to work together, and this is going to be one that attracts a lot of people. I suspect. I mean, Blake can correct me if I'm wrong, but I suspect a lot of folks will join us to say, okay, we, A, want to do bipartisan work, but B, we want to make sure that what we're investing in, when we spend your dollars, taxpayer dollars, that those things are going, that the dollars are going to things that work. And taxpayers expect that of us. And there's no real mechanism right now to ensure that that's what's getting passed, and so hopefully this will make a big difference.
I think this is some of the most important stuff happening in our nation's capital, and to me this isn't really even the debate over cutting big government. It's more about fixing broken government, and if government is going to do something, let's make sure it does it very well. And Congressman Moore, as you look at this, I know you're a data guy, and so you're looking as part of this coalition, this What Works caucus, looking for evidence-driven decision-making. And tell us just a little bit more about how you plan to go about that, again, with this bipartisan effort.
Yeah, thanks for highlighting that. The work that I did prior to with a consulting firm in Salt Lake City, like this was what we did. This is how we worked with companies to make sure they were making the right decisions about their future. They were, you can sometimes use past performance to predict future opportunities, and so we were building predictive models for people. We were helping them understand the competitive landscape. We were helping them identify what tools were out there to do. So right there's a lot of buzzwords, but that's essentially what we're trying to do. And I think the term that Greg just used, there's no mechanism in place. We have age-old, candidly century-old legislation that exists back in Washington without the mechanism to be able to evaluate whether it's really hitting the right piece or not. And we need to do a better job at that, because we do a really good job at letting good best practices pass us by and not leveraging what we could do. So what type of theory of change model could you build for a certain welfare program or a Medicare, a section of Medicare that could make sure that it's run better? I'll give just a brief example to make it tangible. I recently met with the University of Utah, their health department. I serve on health subcommittee for Ways and Means. Healthcare is the biggest reason that we're in the debt situation that we are right now. And we need to make sure that, like our Medicaid program, what could we be doing to help on the preventative side that actually reduces costs and improves care for people overall? The University of Utah ran a pilot. Okay, well, I want to take that pilot, learn from what they did. They find the areas of money that they were able to save and still provide care to those that need it, and then implement that into either more state Medicaid programs or just in general to what we do back here. So there's pilot programs that you can look into. You can use these tools that help you monitor and evaluate. That's kind of the key word, and not get these into a autopilot situation.
Yeah, no question. And then finally, Representative Landsman, before we let you go, as you have started this work, again, you're a freshman. I think that's awesome, because I think freshmen can do extraordinary things. We just have to have people who have the backbone and the will to do it, and you're clearly demonstrating that. As you look at kind of the therefore what of this caucus, what do you hope, looking out a year from now, what do you hope to see as some of the results? Because this seems to be a results-driven idea. What do you hope the results are a year out?
It's a great question. I think, the goals will be, let's get an equal number of Democrats and Republicans working together on this to start to change the culture. The culture is going to take a while to change, but change the culture where people are starting to think about their own bills, whether it's something new or amending or updating something that exists, and saying, what is, to Blake's point, what's the theory of change? How are we going to measure impact, and how do we build that into the legislation so that we are seeing more and more bills being introduced that have that language included, and that people are starting to ask the question? Because where I believe the majority of Americans are, and I suspect Blake will agree with this, is that they don't mind investments in people and folks that are struggling, so long as it works. So long as it's having the intended impact. And for so many of these programs, we just don't know.
Yeah.
And that's true for all spending. All spending should be measured based on whether or not it's achieving the goal. So that's at least what I hope to achieve within the year is getting a good group of folks that are beginning to think differently about all of this, all of the spending.
Fantastic. And I wish this was the headline of the day on all the networks and in all the places across the country, because I think this is important work. And I think you hit it right on, Representative Landsman, that the culture, creating this culture eats strategy for breakfast is our motto around here. And right. I think you're helping foster a culture that will deliver better results for the people of our country. Representative Blake Moore, Representative Greg Landsman, Democrat from Ohio, welcome to the show, and we're grateful for both of you for making time for us today. And we look forward to having you back to continue this crucial conversation, the What Works Caucus. This is going to be something to watch in the months and in the year ahead. Representatives, both of you, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you.
Thanks, Blake. Greg.
All right, that is a crucial conversation that you're not hearing anywhere else today, because this is what matters. There's a lot of chatter. There's a lot of stuff going back and forth that's very divisive. There's a lot of rhetoric from both the left and the right coming out today on a wide range of issues. And our own Representative Blake Moore from the 1st Congressional District and Democrat Greg Landsman from Ohio's 1st Congressional District are talking about something way, way, way more important today, and that is what works in government. And how do we know? And how do we measure? How do we make sure we're getting results that we want so that we can be careful stewards of the taxpayer dollar? How can we make sure that we're making a difference for the American citizens? This should be the headline of the day. We should think again about what matters most.
Think again on Inside Sources with Boyd Matheson. A higher cost at the pump
$75 to now fill up my tank
affects everything down the pipeline.
Gas prices are at the heart of all our costs.
Dave and Debbie talk about the top-of-mind issues affecting us all.
We go together now. Let's just take one car so that we're saving gas.
Join the conversation weekdays 9 to noon on KSL News Radio, Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
This just in. With the huge response we received from our Labor Day sale, we've decided to hold it over a few more days. So don't miss out on the biggest hot tub and swim spa Labor Day sale at Backyards of America and Hot Tub Factory Outlet. Save $6,000 MSRP on 10 of our select Sundance model hot tubs and save a whopping $8,000 MSRP on our swim spas too. Buy local and experience what a local in-house service technician can do for you. We make it easy for you to own a Sundance hot tub or swim spa in Sandy at Backyards of America and in Draper at Hot Tub Factory Outlet. Don't buy from others until you see our pricing. Check out our biggest swim spa supercenter in the state with 8 in-stock models ready for delivery. Get $6,000 off our select Sundance model hot tubs and $8,000 off our swim spas. MSRP while supplies last. Because when they're gone, they're gone. Hot Tub Factory Outlet in Draper next to Cowabunga Bay and Backyards of America in Sandy.
What's the biggest threat to your retirement savings today? Believe it or not, it's taxes. That's right, you could be paying a lot more taxes in retirement than you realize. Learn more in a free report, 3 retirement tax traps that could wipe out your savings. It's from Boss Retirement Solutions, a 5-time winner of Utah's Best of State Award. This free report reveals how you could avoid 3 retirement tax traps that could needlessly cost you tens of thousands, and in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars. To get this free report, call 801-896-9622. Don't needlessly overpay your taxes in retirement. Get this free report now by calling 801-896-9622. That's 801-896-9622. Advisory services offered through Boss Retirement Advisors, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. Insurance products and services offered through Boss Retirement Solutions.
It's game time, and you're in the locker room ready to take the field. Suddenly, you notice a player you don't recognize. He's wearing your team's jersey, and he even knows your name, but you've never seen him before until now. Would you trust this stranger with your team's playbook? Because that's exactly how phishing scams work. The first quarter of 2022 saw the highest volume of phishing attacks ever recorded. Protect your business with the Les Olson Security Suite from Les Olson IT. Learn more about it at lesolson.com.
Attention smart homeowners. You don't have to fall for flashy promises and companies that don't even prove their work. At Your Service Pros uses third-party verification software called MeasureQuick to ensure your new HVAC system is installed correctly. This ultimate game changer in the HVAC industry lets you, the homeowner, have proof of how your system was installed. At Your Service Pros utilizes our Bluetooth tools to upload all of your system's information into MeasureQuick. We rely on data-driven insights to properly commission, optimize, and fine-tune your HVAC system for peak performance, improving your family's comfort, lowering your utility bills, and extending the life of your HVAC system. With rebates and tax credits available totaling more than $7,500 on a dual fuel heating and cooling system, it is now more important than ever that your HVAC system be installed correctly. So call us today at 801-YOUR-PRO. That's 801-YOUR-PRO. Have the peace of mind of saving up to 50% on your new system and knowing it's installed correctly by calling 801-YOUR-PRO.
Join the Utah Symphony for the greatest classical hits from the 1700s to today. Tickets start at $21. Get yours today at utahsymphony.org.
With the 3 things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, Senator Mitt Romney says he will not run for a second term. Second, buying the median-priced home in Utah is beyond the reach of 90% of the people who live here. And third, if Russia and North Korea make a new arms deal that could affect the war in Ukraine, they're risking additional sanctions from the United States. Right now, 79 degrees, mostly cloudy in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Well, as we broke the news earlier today, Utah Senator Mitt Romney announced that he would not be running for re-election. He'll finish out the term, of course, which will actually finish in January of 2025. So he has a little over a year to go, and I know the senator has a lot left on his plate in the next year plus that he wants to get done, and I think that's an important thing to remember as we look at what is going on and what will happen. Obviously, there'll be a lot of chatter about who comes next and what that looks like in terms of the 2024 election cycle. But I do want to go through some of the things that the senator talked about today because I think they're instructive to us in terms of public service. I think they're instructive to us in terms of how we should approach political office and governing in the United States. I love the fact that we just had Representative Blake Moore and his Democratic colleague on the line with us, Representative Landsman, talking about the What Works caucus and just how important that is. And we got to start talking more about those kinds of initiatives. It's the stuff going on behind the scenes that can really make a difference in changing the culture in Washington, which will lead to better results in terms of policy and outcomes for the American people. So Senator Romney, as he began what was an announcement on what used to be known as Twitter, now X, in a post there, he talked about the decision to not seek re-election, saying it's time for a new generation to move the nation forward.
I've spent my last 25 years in public service of one kind or another. At the end of another term, I'd be in my mid-80s. Frankly, it's time for a new generation of leaders. They're the ones that need to make the decisions that will shape the world they will be living in.
I love that framing, that the next generation of leaders should be the ones to make the decisions that will impact the world that they will live in. I think that's an important message. And clearly that was a message not just coming from Senator Romney, that was clearly a message to others on both sides of the political aisle, that you don't have to hang on to power forever. That I think one of the things that Senator Romney demonstrated is something we've talked about on this show before, and that is George Washington. Understanding that everybody is replaceable. Everyone's important. Everyone has a crucial role to play. But there's a time to move on. And that's the goal. You go in, you serve, you do a careful job of being a steward, you leave a legacy, and then you move on. And someone else will step it up. And I actually love the fact that Senator Romney talked about this in the context of his confidence in the country, that the country would produce the right leaders for the next generation, that they're there, and that they'll rise up, and that they'll move forward, and they'll speak out. And so I thought that was an interesting way for the senator to begin saying, look, it's time for a new generation to lead the nation and to deal with the issues that will impact the world that they will be living in. The senator went on to talk about some of the top challenges facing our nation and how leaders of both parties have been falling short.
Now we face critical challenges: mounting national debt, climate change, and the ambitious authoritarians of Russia and China. Neither President Biden nor former President Trump are leading their party to confront those issues. On deficits and debt, both men refuse to address entitlements, even though they know that this represents 2/3 of federal spending. Donald Trump calls global warming a hoax, and President Biden offers feel-good solutions that make no difference to the global climate. On China, President Biden underinvests in the military, and President Trump underinvests in our alliances. Political motivations too often impede the solutions that these challenges demand.
Political motivations too often impede the solutions that these challenges demand. That's an important message for us today. And I think the senator was also sending the message there that, look, there's important work to be done, and he's going to continue working on that until January of 2025. And clearly, if the senator had run, he would have been formidable, if not inevitable, because of the kind of work that he's been doing. But again, looking at that next generation. So the senator closed out his video with a goodbye and a commitment to keep working on the issues that are crucial to Utah and to the country.
While I'm not running for re-election, I'm not retiring from the fight. I'll be your United States Senator until January of 2025. I will keep working on these and other issues, and I'll advance our state's numerous priorities. I look forward to working with you and with folks across our state and nation in that endeavor. It really is a profound honor to serve Utah and the country, and I thank you for giving me the opportunity to do so.
I think Senator Romney understood what George Washington clearly lived, and that is that power is not something to be amassed or bartered with or to hold on to or cling to, nor is it a tool for pursuing just political purposes or self-promotion. And while many proclaimed that they are indispensable or irreplaceable, there's always a new future generation to be had. Space just has to be made. And so on a day as Senator Romney announces that he will not seek re-election, he very clearly stated that he is not retiring from the fight, that he will continue until January of 2025. And my sense is that he will be one of those statesmen that well after he has left the building, he will continue to influence issues that are important to the state of Utah and to the nation. We'll step aside now for some bottom of the hour news. More Inside Sources coming up next on KSL News Radio. Stick around.
It's 2:30 at KSL News Radio. I'm Dan Bomas. KSL's top story this hour. Senator Mitt Romney's decision not to run for a second term opens the way for other Republicans, including Utah House Speaker Brad Wilson. Wilson issued a statement today saying he and Romney didn't always see eye to eye, but he wishes him and his family the best. Wilson went on to say he's been encouraged by strong fundraising and a groundswell of grassroots support as he contemplates a run for the Senate. Utah wildlife officials say close to 200 animals have been found killed illegally in the state over the past 6 weeks. Officials with Utah's Division of Wildlife Resources are reminding hunters that they are responsible to make sure they have the correct hunting license, know where they're allowed to hunt before they head out. Our top national story this hour from ABC News. A Senate briefing on artificial intelligence had members of both parties expressing their worries about these emerging technologies. ABC's Stephen Portnoy reports technology executives also shared their concerns.
The closed-door forum for senators drew Facebook's Mark Zuckerberg, Microsoft co-founder Bill Gates, the head of the company behind ChatGPT, and Tesla's CEO Elon Musk.
It was very civilized discussion, actually, among some of the smartest people in the world.
Musk, who last year bought Twitter, says he worries about AI targeting humans.
The question is really one of civilizational risk.
Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer, who organized the session to educate his colleagues, says a bipartisan consensus is emerging. It might soon be time for a law. Stephen Portnoy, ABC News.
Your money at this moment, the Dow Jones average down in minus 70 territory right now, 70 points down. NASDAQ, though, has stayed in the positive all day long, up 39 points at the close of trading. And the S&P 500 was up just 5 points. And our KSL weather will be drying out. That's next. KSL News Time, 2:32.
Start your days with knowledgeable, friendly voices telling you about the latest news and weather out there.
Hi, this is Tim Hughes and Amanda Dixon.
In the business of waking you up each morning from 5 to 9.
On KSL News Radio.
We're going to go to a live interview with Senator Mitt Romney.
I just looking at my age and where I am, I wish if I knew that I was going to be like Chuck Grassley and be able to be vigorous and dynamic into my 90s, I might have reached a different decision, but you never know. But I do think that the times we're living in really demand the next generation to step up and express their point of view and to make the decisions that will shape our American politics over the coming century. And just having a bunch of guys that were around the baby boomers who who are around in the post-war era, we're not the right ones to be making the decisions for tomorrow.
How do you speak to where the Republican Party is now? When you look at the Republican Party, particularly where the House of Representatives is, do you feel like this is a Republican Party that is beholden to former President Donald Trump?
Well, there's no question but that the Republican Party today is in the shadow of Donald Trump. He is the leader of the greatest portion of the Republican Party. It's a populist, I believe, demagogue portion of the party. Look, I represent a small wing of the party, if you will. I call it the wise wing of the Republican Party. And I don't believe we're going away. I think ultimately we'll see a resurgence and come back into leadership of the party. Look, my wing of the party talks about policy and about issues that will make a difference to the lives of the American people. The Trump wing of the party talks about resentments of various kind and getting even and settling scores and revisiting the 2020 election. What are the policies for the future? And my party is only going to be successful getting young people to vote for us if we're talking about the future. And that's not happening so far in that other wing.
But Senator, aren't you going to lose that battle? People like you are fighting that wing of the party and stepping aside. And to add to that, you had said just that a lot of the party simply does not believe in the Constitution. What do you mean by that?
Well, I was in a rally where someone said to me, you know, if you're elected, this is when I was running for Senate last time, if you're elected, will you close down ABC, NBC, and CBS because they're not sending out the truth? And this was in a Republican rally, and I was like, really? I mean, there's no question. There's some portion of my party and the opposition party who thinks we need to have a strong person, a strong man to put aside the Constitution. And for that matter, President Trump, former President Trump, said we should put aside the Constitution and reinstall him as president. I mean, so yeah, there are some people who believe that. I believe they're sorely wrong. I believe the great majority of American people believe that they're wrong. But in terms of what I'm going to be doing, look, I want to get more young people voting and involved in the political process, and that's something I'm going to devote myself to after the next year and a half when I spend it.
Senator Romney, thank you for Romney. Who do you plan to endorse as your successor? Governor Cox, Mia Love, Congressman Owens, and second, why not stay and fight for what you believe in, even if it takes you to your mid-80s?
Well, in part because I believe we want some other young people coming in and making those decisions. I don't intend to make endorsements. By the way, I think endorsements are, what's the old line, the John McCain line, they're not worth a bucket of spit. Who the heck cares who endorsed who? You make your decision as a voter about what you think about the candidate and their point of view and their vision, and you don't care about what some other person said. So I'm not planning on...
But who do you want to succeed you?
I don't have a comment on who might succeed me. I hope that we get a very strong contender and that it's someone who's a little younger than me.
Senator, if you think you're too old, what about Biden and Trump, who are way older than you? Do you think they should be rerunning? Oh, I think it'd be a great thing if both President Biden and former President Trump were to stand aside and let their respective party pick someone in the next generation. President Biden, when he was running, said he was a transitional figure to the next generation. Well, time to transition. David Ignatius this morning made a strong argument that we should see that kind of a change. I think both parties would be far better served if they were going to be represented by people other than those of us from the baby boom generation. Do you have pointed to some of your bipartisan accomplishments in your statement earlier. Are you concerned at all about the ranks of senators who are at the table forming gangs, that's thinning out?
Well, we had a group of about 10 of us, and that group has dissipated a bit. Rob Portman is gone. Susan Collins has become really the ranking member on appropriations. That's got to be her focus. Then you've got Sinema, Manchin, Tester on the Democratic side. So we're all pulling in different directions these days. Coming together like we had was a very unusual thing. Look, I recognize that I had an embarrassment of riches initially, which is as a first-term senator, I got together with a group of other folks, and we got a lot of stuff done. A COVID relief package when the White House and then Speaker Pelosi couldn't get one done, an infrastructure bill, reform of the Electoral Count Act, religious liberty protections in the Marriage Act, gun safety legislation. We got a lot done, which was a lot of fun. That's kind of unusual. And looking forward, I think it's going to be more challenging for something like that to occur again.
Senator, are you going to seek elected office again? Will you run for office ever again, high office, Senate?
I never imagined I would be running this time, and I can't imagine doing it again. But there's that old line from Dumb and Dumber, which is, there's a 1 out of a million shot. So you're saying there's a chance? All right. So I'm certainly not planning on that. I got no future campaigns in mind.
Senator, what have you heard from some of your colleagues on both sides of the aisle when it comes to missing your leadership, missing your participation in these issues? And secondly, something you're very well going to be a part of, potentially, is another impeachment trial in the Senate, this time with President Joe Biden. What's your response to that?
Well, I have been heartened today as I've received texts from a great number of my colleagues saying they're going to miss me. I appreciate that. I was heartened by the poll in Utah a couple of weeks ago that was very, very encouraging as well, with a very positive approval rating. That feels good. Following the George Costanza lead, which is you leave when they're laughing, you leave when they're wishing you would stay. And I really don't want to be in an institution where people are saying, why is he still hanging around?
Speaking of that,
and so I'm going to continue to work over the next year and a half to really address the big 3 or 4 issues: immigration, the level of our debt we have, a climate change strategy, and a strategy to deal with China.
What about on impeachment?
We've been listening to Utah Senator Mitt Romney taking questions from reporters in his Senate office there in Washington, D.C. Wide-ranging interview in terms of his choosing not to run for re-election. He addressed the age issue, his own, as well as that of President Biden and former President Donald Trump. He said that it would be great for both parties, for both of those men, to step aside and let a new generation of leaders step in, deal with the problems that they will ultimately have to live with. The senator also went through some of the bipartisan work that he has accomplished in the Senate and how the dynamics there continue to change. And there's a host of other things that I think we'll continue to see as the day plays out. But again, Senator Romney has been taking questions in his office in the Russell Building there up on Capitol Hill in our nation's capital today. And we'll continue to follow all of that here on Inside Sources and KSL News Radio throughout the afternoon today. Okay, we're going to actually pick up again with Senator Romney. Additional questions being asked of the senator in the office.
Even as a second-term senator, I would not be a committee chair or a ranking member. I'd be a junior person trying to get stuff done and fight through the regular order process. I was able to break through that with this gang that came together, but he's in a position to make a real difference at his age, which, if I were majority leader of the Senate, I might reach a different decision too, but I'm not.
Senator, in the excerpts from the book that just came out today, you had some harsh, at least memories of Leader McConnell. Are you at all disappointed by the leadership that you've seen in your Republican Party that you've encountered, particularly with the impeachment trials and in dealing with Trump?
No, actually, I have a great deal of respect for Leader McConnell, and one of the mysteries to me is why he is so unpopular in national polls. I don't understand that. He is the singular reason why we have a conservative Supreme Court. I hope people recognize that. He also is a very effective leader of our group. When you have 50 people, a Republican group, basically 50 of us, every one of whom thinks they ought to be president, how you lead a group like that is not easy, and he has done it with skill and aplomb over a number of years. So I have nothing but the highest respect for him. There's nothing that I know of in the book that McKay Coppins has written that's critical of the leader. I mean, the personal conversations, the private conversations, and his public pronouncements, I've been nothing but more impressed.
In that book, you say that McConnell said that Trump was an idiot. That was the words of McConnell. One is that true?
I'm not going to comment on those specific things because those were not quotes from me. They were quotes from a member of my staff who actually quoted that. So I won't comment about that. But I think the folks who objected on January 6th said they were disingenuous. Cruz and Hawley. I think the point was that with regards to that comment, which is that I think Leader McConnell thought it was not a great idea on the part of Donald Trump to be critical of jury members at the time they were deliberating. It was kind of an obvious point.
And then what about Cruz and Hawley? Because you said that they were disingenuous on them objecting. I really do believe that many of the people
in leadership, meaning elected officials who claimed that 2020 was a stolen election, that we need to recount the ballots or whatever, other than through the normal judicial process. I think they do better. And I have expressed that numerous times. That's not a surprise. Look, democracy requires belief and credibility in elections, and so people who are casting aspersions on our election process are threatening one of the bases of our very foundation. So, I was critical of that and continue to be, and I'm sure they wouldn't be surprised to hear it again.
Are you worried another January 6th could happen after this election? Is that part of
I think my guess is after the next election, whatever happens, there'll be plenty of people around the Capitol to make sure that doesn't happen again.
What do you think it's going to take for the party to not be so dominated by Donald Trump anymore?
I saw an article in the Atlantic which pointed out that young people are not warming to the MAGA message, and I think that's true. Whether Donald Trump is there will be someone that follows him, that follows in his footsteps and gives the same populist patter. I don't think it'll be successful long term because I think young people are paying far more attention, are not going to be sucked into the populist notions, and so I think our party goes back to, if you will, the wise wing of the Republican Party as time goes on.
But do you think that your party, though? I mean, Trump is leading, dominating in the polls right now. He's probably going to be your nominee. You're on the outsider of the party. Yeah. There's no signs that what you're saying, that the party's going to shift away.
I'm not talking about in the next 2 years. I'm talking over the next decade or so. I mean, populism doesn't work. I quote that M.L. Mencken line, which is, to every complex problem, there's a solution which is simple, clear, and wrong. And unfortunately, that's what we're hearing. And again, on the Trump wing of the party, I haven't heard policy other than saying we're going to build a wall. And by the way, he was president. He was president for 4 years. He built 50 miles. What did he get done? I said, well, how about the tax change? Well, the tax, that was Paul Ryan. That wasn't the Biden plan. He did, of course, he had a health care plan. Remember that? That was everybody's going to have low-cost health insurance that was fabulous. Never proposed. Never saw. He was in 4 years. So it's not a policy-centric approach, and if you don't have policy to match your rhetoric, ultimately it's not going to be successful.
Do you expect to be out of the greatest regret at the end of the day?
Senator, in that case, in McKay's article, you mentioned, or it's mentioned that you've spoken to Joe Manchin about possibly starting a third political party. Is there any interest in that, or is that sort of died out?
That was several months ago. Who knows what might happen? I think Senator Manchin is looking more closely at no labels at this stage. I can't speak for him, but Joe and I speak a good deal, and I raise ideas with him. I actually think a third-party candidate would make it more likely that it's just a spoiler and it would not be successful in electing someone. So that's not.
Senator, what was your biggest regret in your career?
Question. You say that you want.
We've been listening to Utah Senator Mitt Romney has been holding an extensive press conference just there in his office in the Russell Building there on Capitol Hill in Washington, D.C., and just been taking a wide range of questions regarding everything from upcoming presidential election, third-party candidates, talked about the different wings of the Republican Party, where those challenges are, talked about former President Trump and his current lead in national polls as it relates to the presidential election and becoming the Republican nominee. I thought it was interesting that the senator talked about the fact that he thought both parties would do far better if both the current president, Joe Biden, and the former president, Donald Trump, were to step aside and let those parties recalibrate, refocus, and focus forward in terms of a different kind of message for a different time and maybe better solutions for a different kind of future. So we'll continue to monitor that. The senator's continuing to take a few questions there. They're getting a little deeper into the book coming out today, which has a wide range of topics covered there. The senator's just wrapping up in his office there in the Russell Building at the Senate in the United States Capitol. And we're going to go ahead and step aside for a quick break. We'll come back with some final thoughts here on Inside Sources on KSL News Radio. Stick around. We'll be right back.
Attention taxpayers, ready for some bad news? With $80 billion in new funding from Congress, the IRS has launched their most aggressive hiring campaign ever to ramp up enforcement. If you're ignoring your taxes, don't delay another minute because your paycheck, your bank account, even your home or business could already be at risk. Now, here's the good news. Optima Tax Relief, America's #1 tax relief firm, can get to work immediately, helping to protect you from the IRS. A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, their tax attorneys and licensed professionals are experts at resolving tax problems. Let them help determine if you qualify for the Fresh Start Initiative or other powerful IRS tax assistance programs. Take control. Call Optima Tax Relief now for a free consultation.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
Hercules Credit Union has been offering the highest quality financial services to the community since 1946. And I love their slogan, growing stronger together. That's what it's all about. And right now you have the opportunity to grow strong by going for the gold. You can open a checking account with Hercules Credit Union, qualify for their gold tier checking status within the first 90 days, and they'll actually deposit an additional $200 into your account. Simple as that. Again, open a checking account with Hercules Credit Union, qualify for gold tier checking status, and they will deposit $200 into your account. You get all kinds of benefits with gold tier checking status, ultimate ID protection, travel benefits, cellular care coverage, health and wellness savings, and a host of other family benefits, all through Hercules Credit Union. They have locations in Taylorsville, Harriman, Riverton, and Salt Lake City. Or as always, you can find our friends at Hercules Credit Union at HerculesCU.com. That's HerculesCU.com.
They say good things come to those who wait, but we both know the truth. If you want the good things in life, you've got to go out and get them. So if you've been dreaming of a Cadillac, don't wait. Head to Jerry Seiner Cadillac and get one for yourself. With their award-winning XT4, 5, and 6 models available on-site and the area's top selection of certified pre-owned Cadillacs, there's no need to wait to drive in luxury. Stop dreaming, start driving. Visit Jerry Seiner and experience the Seiner difference.
Smart, connected, modern. Discover life-enhancing independent living services at Trio South Ogden. They do things a little differently there because you're different. With everything you need to support your best self, you'll find that joy isn't just for the young, it's for the young of heart. Trio South Ogden's signature programs provide a unique approach to wellness that brings living well and well-being to life. To learn more, contact Trio South Ogden at 801-475-4004 or visit triosouthodden.com.
Getting help with plumbing repairs is easier than you think. All you have to do is call Any Hour Services or schedule an appointment at anyhourservices.com. No one helps more homeowners than Any Hour Services.
Transform your outdated kitchen with half-price Granite. Replace your entire kitchen with beautiful and affordable options with Granite for only $2,500. Yeah, $2,500. Not interested in countertops? No worries. Half-price Granite is now stocked with gorgeous cabinets and flooring options to choose from. You're sure to find something you love. Call 801-486-1700. 801-486-1700. Half-price Granite. Online at halfpricegranite.com. Half-price Granite. Affordable luxury.
Not completing high school is more of a social thing than it was an academic thing. Even though all these years have passed, I still had that longing to have my diploma.
At age 30, Carissa finished her high school diploma.
If you're even considering getting your high school diploma, you can do it.
No one gets a diploma alone. If you're thinking of finishing your high school diploma, you have help. Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org. That's finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by the Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
Yeah, I'm so stressed. Our business is growing. We've got people all over now.
Ooma.
What is that? Meditation?
I'm recommending the Ooma cloud phone system with auto attendant and more than 50 features.
Ooma?
Yep. Switching to Ooma is a cinch. Just $24.95 per month per user, plus taxes and fees.
Ooma.
Now you're feeling it. Find small business calm at ooma.com/radio. That's OOMA.com/radio.
What is the biggest threat to your retirement savings today? Believe it or not, it's taxes. That's right. You could be paying a lot more taxes in retirement than you realize. Learn more in a free report. 3 retirement tax traps that could wipe out your savings. It's from Boss Retirement Solutions, a 5-time winner of Utah's Best of State Award. This free report reveals how you could avoid 3 retirement tax traps. that could needlessly cost you tens of thousands, and in some cases, hundreds of thousands of dollars. To get this free report, call 801-896-9622. Don't needlessly overpay your taxes in retirement. Get this free report now by calling 801-896-9622. That's 801-896-9622.
Advisory services offered through Boss Retirement Advisors, an SEC-registered investment advisory firm. Insurance products and services offered through Boss Retirement Solutions.
Tim Jr. here from RGS Exteriors. I want you to know that it's the little things that count. Any remodeler can say they treat customers right when it comes to siding, gutters, windows, and exteriors. It's hard to know for sure. If a contractor uses cheap generic nails instead of super grippy ridge shaft nails for your siding, would you even know? If they use cheap $4 caulk to install your new windows instead of paying $9 a tube for the good stuff, could you tell by looking? It all comes down to the details and trust. At RGS Exteriors, we only do things one way, the right way. We never cut corners. We never skimp on details. We never do less than the job requires. That's why we offer our industry's exclusive 10-year everything guarantee. And it's why we have the happiest customers. If you need any gutters, siding, or replacement windows, call RGS Exteriors at 801-280-3110 or visit rgsutah.com. That's 801-280-3110 or online at rgsutah.com.
Any Hour Services free furnace sale is going on right now. If you haven't scheduled your free estimate yet, what are you waiting for? Call Any Hour Services today or schedule online at anyhourservices.com.
With the three things you need to know this hour, I'm Dan Bomas. First, Senator Mitt Romney's decision not to run for a second term opens the way for other Republicans to enter the race, including Utah House Speaker Brad Wilson. Second, state wildlife agents say they found hundreds of animals killed illegally in Utah over the past 6 weeks. And third, top tech leaders like Elon Musk, Bill Gates, and Mark Zuckerberg spoke to a closed-door briefing for senators today in Washington. Right now, we're at 79 degrees under mostly cloudy skies in Salt Lake City. And back to Inside Sources on KSL News Radio.
Hear elevated conversation on crucial issues. Boyd Matheson on Inside Sources.
Welcome back to Inside Sources here on KSL News Radio. It's great to be with you today, as always, and it has been a very busy day today. If you've missed any of the program, you're going to want to go back and check out the podcast today. We had just a really interesting confluence of things going on. We started off the show at 1:05 with Representative Chris Stewart, who has less than 48 hours left in his time serving in the United States Congress. So we talked to him about his legacy, some of the accomplishments, including the 988 number that has saved so many lives, and especially as we focus on suicide prevention this month, throughout the month. I think this is an important conversation, and it showed to me, one, how determined Representative Stewart was to get that done, even something that everybody says, yeah, that's a great idea. It still takes time. It took years to actually get that all the way through the process, get it into law, and then get it up and running. And again, hats off to Representative Chris Stewart. So as he was coming down his final 48 hours, Senator Mitt Romney started the clock ticking on about a year and a half, not a little short of that, until January of 2025, when he will end his term serving in the United States Senate, announced that he would not seek re-election to the Senate, representing the state of Utah. And, of course, that has set off a flurry of activity and conversations in the state and in our nation's capital. We just covered a press conference where Senator Romney took questions in his office there in the Russell Building from reporters on a wide range of topics, and beyond just his own reelection, but what it meant for the Republican Party, what it meant for the Democratic Party. And those are things that you're definitely going to want to go back to. We've also talked earlier in the show about what's happening in New Mexico, the gun ban based on an emergency order by the governor of New Mexico. That's a problematic thing, and increasingly we're seeing use of the term emergency as a way for leaders at all levels of government to do things they shouldn't be able to do, either constitutionally or just under their current parameters and restrictions on their power. So that's something we have to keep our eye on. And then we also had a really important conversation, and this is the one thing that I wish was the headline of the day today, and that is Utah's Representative Blake Moore, of course, representing the 1st District here in the state of Utah, Republican, And his Democratic friend and colleague, Greg Landsman, who represents Ohio's 1st Congressional District, have launched, with a number of other colleagues on both the left and the right, a new caucus, which is called the What Works Caucus. And it's all designed to give lawmakers the tools so that they can make better decisions, so they can evaluate programs and policies and determine what is delivering the best results. It can be evidence and data-based so that we can shift the federal dollars, your tax dollars, to programs that are working and producing positive results, rather than the current system we have, which is to just keep throwing money at programs and processes, even when we know they're no longer effective or even no longer needed. And so that is something we're going to continue to follow on this show, because I think that's a crucial conversation. The What Works Caucus didn't get a lot of headlines today on a very crowded news day, but it's one that we all should keep our eyes on moving forward, because it might have the biggest impact on your tax dollars and the results we get out of government. Well, that wraps it up for us on Inside Sources today here on KSL News Radio. I am Boyd Matheson. Thanks for joining us. And as always, as you go out into the world today, make sure you see something that inspires, say something that uplifts, and do something that makes a difference.
KSL FM Midvale, KSL Salt Lake City. Listen at home on any smart speaker and in your car at 102.7 FM. This is KSL News Radio, Utah's news, traffic, and weather station.
It's 3 o'clock at KSL News Radio. Good afternoon. I'm Maria Shaleo, sitting in today for Jeff Kaplan. It's partly